Hey there, I'm Rody,
And I'm Riff.
and we're 2/5 of Protest the Hero.
And you are watching PITCAM.tv.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Well, thank you yourself.
Yes, very well.
You're back in Europe. What's it like?
It's marvelous. The beer is as delicious as it always has been, of course.
Yeah, no, we're very happy to be back. It's been almost too long, I think. Yeah, so we're very happy to be back, especially in Germany, I mean, where the beer is the finest.
What's your fan base like over here compared to back home?
Well, I mean, I think that we're lucky in the sense that our fans are very supportive anywhere we go. But I think that in Germany and a lot of continental Europe, there's just a real appreciation for technical music.
Yeah.
So oftentimes, after the shows, people will ask me questions that are way above my head. I mean, there's a lot of really brilliant young players, in this country and all over Europe, and they kind of put me to shame sometimes, So I have to make sure that I don't go up there and mess up the songs too badly because they're listening and they know better than I do.
I've been told by other bands that the Europeans appreciate harder music, more so than the Americans. Do you have that feeling as well?
I mean, I would be hard-pressed to say that they like it more or less, but I think that people show their enthusiasm in different ways here. And I think that people are very gracious in Germany and elsewhere, where they say, thank you very much for coming to the show, or for coming and putting on the show. And then in turn, I say, thank you for coming to and making a show for us,
It seems to me like you guys were always sort of the band that didn't quite fit the bill when you were playing with metalcore bands, post-hardcore bands. Did you guys feel like that as well?
Oh, absolutely. We are very much the square peg in the circular hole. That's not the phrase at all, but, we would go out on these, beer-chugging American metal tours, and we'd be kind of like the wimpy band with the clean vocals, and then we'd go on, a screamo tour, and we'd be like the crazy band with the, technical guitars. It's just, we never fit in, and that's maybe why no one ever asks us to tour with them anymore. And on top of that, we're kind of pricks. Well, we're not pricks,
I
but
don't think we're pricks.
we're a little different, I suppose, would be.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, but we've just been headlining nonstop for the longest time. We're not gaining any fans. We're only losing them when they meet us and understand just how strange we are.
Well, your fourth album, called Volition, was released 3 months ago. You've described it as being your most challenging album to date. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, I would say it's challenging in a number of ways. I think with lineup changes that happened and with the behind the scenes in terms of sort of label and industry, that was very challenging and it's different. I mean, the whole crowdfunding thing, the reason the album sort of came to be, a lot of the process changed. And I think that has to reflect in the music somehow. I'm not precisely sure how it has. I mean, what changes it has affected, but I know for a fact that it must have in one way, shape, or form. I mean, I think that I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah,
Right?
I got you. Don't be
Gobbledygook. No, but no record that we've done has sounded, I think, too much like the previous album. And I think that as we change as people, naturally so too the music changes. And for one that was so drastically different from the beginning in terms of how we approached writing and performing and recording the songs, it only stands to reason that the album will sound different as well.
Like you mentioned, lineup changes. Your drummer left just when you were starting recording. How did that affect the whole process?
Well, I mean, it was during the writing process, which was particularly difficult because we had never written Sans a drummer, right? So the writing process entirely got flipped on its head. And instead of writing with a drummer sitting in a room and just hashing out ideas, over and over and over again, it became, our lead guitarist, Luke, sitting in a room with a computer playing and programming drums as he went along. So, it was really strange and it did affect the writing in a big way, but I think it was very positive. The efficiency with which it got written was incredible. It was much more efficient than any of the records we've done in the past, which have taken us well over a year to write in some cases. This one happened very quickly, and I think the songs are better for it.
You made this one a crowdfunding project, like you mentioned. Why is that?
I mean, it seemed like an interesting idea. We were sort of reaching the end of our obligations to certain labels that we were affiliated with, and we didn't have many good stories about working with those labels. And it seemed, I think that crowdfunding is a window of opportunity that we were able to take advantage of, because as soon as fat cats in the industry realize that there's money to be had, they're going to sink their teeth into it. And we managed to catch on to Indiegogo before the industry had sort of realized the full potential of it. So I think that we got a very pure and unadulterated version of how successful a crowdfunding campaign can actually be. Whereas now, I think that labels are probably pushing their artists to do it because they want to pass the buck of the heavy burden of paying for the album onto fans. I mean, we were lucky in the sense that there wasn't anything greasy about the way we did it. We asked, this is an album that we want to make, and we're lucky enough to have fans that are enthusiastic and supportive enough that just believed in the fact that we would write an album that they would enjoy. And hopefully we haven't disappointed anyone.
Were you surprised at how fast you had the money that you needed together?
Oh, yes.
Still surprised.
We met beforehand, when we were just getting ready to launch the Indiegogo campaign, and we said, we might make $200, we might make $200,000, but either way, we have to figure out a way to make this record. And, when we were throwing around that $200,000, it was very jovial. It was like, it's not gonna be, don't get your hopes up, boys. So, to see the goal reached inside of 18 hours was just fucked, to be poetic.
I went to a bar the night that the launch happened, and I got a text message from a friend of mine who I guess had checked the page in the first 5 or 10, 15 minutes. And she sent me a text message and she said, "Congratulations, you guys have reached $800. And I had to send one back to her and say, "Check it again." And needless to say, she was blown away. I was blown away. And I sat there, and every time I would refresh on my phone, every time I would refresh the page, I was more and more amazed and shocked and exhilarated that this was a thing. It was alive and it was happening. And I think it took a while for us to actually believe it. I mean, it was Candyland for us for a little while there.
What are the downsides to being independent like you are now, except for the financial side?
I mean, I think sort of on a personal level, I find it difficult to go to and ask fans for money. There's sort of something difficult, and we try and walk a fine line between not acting too much like a charity case. I mean, it's to know that this is actually sort of a financial transaction. You're giving us money in advance, and we're going to give you something hopefully worthwhile, hopefully something that you don't feel like you wasted your money on. But I think that you sort of have to overcome a certain undignified quality to be like, this is what we want to do. And we're lucky that the fans made it as easy as it is, because it wasn't a simple question to ask. And it wasn't simple circumstances that led us to asking it in the first place.
The album has some interesting cover art. What can you tell me about it?
Well, it was done by a man named Jeff Jordan. He's done a lot of the Mars Volta stuff in the past. Fantastic artist. I spoke to him over email regarding some of the major themes on the record, and he just sort of came up with this idea sort of about Lita and the Swan, and created the artwork out of that basic idea.
So is there any specific meaning behind the vultures and anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, to get right down to it, the vultures represent the media.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Anything else you want to add?
I said in the last interview, and I'll reiterate now, what I particularly like about the album artwork is a very simple thing. And that's when I first opened the gatefold vinyl edition of the record, and you see the full expanse of the artwork. To me, it reminded me of old like 70s prog. Like it reminded me of like the golden age of vinyl records and the golden age of cover art. And to me, I feel like we're participating in a lengthy discussion throughout history of what it means to have meaningful artwork that looks good on a wall. I think the visual component just adds so much to the music somehow. And I think that it's really helped make the album more than just the sum of the music that's recorded on it.
It's kind of sad though, isn't it, that a lot of people, when they buy the, the digital album, that the artwork sort of, they don't get it.
Of course. I mean, I think that that's probably part of the reason that people have been pushing toward more timeless formats like vinyl, is because they want something that they can hold in their hand. I know I certainly do. I'm not, a big crazy record collector, but I have lots of records and I have them displayed in my house, and it's a much more meaningful experience for me, both in terms of listening to the music, but then also in terms of sort of experiencing what it is to be a part of that, of the album. I mean, as a listener or as a performer. I think it's a beautiful thing where if you have nice artwork, it's on the wall and it deserves to be on the wall, it deserves to be looked at, and I feel so fortunate, I mean, to the point that I feel giddy about the fact that we have this beautiful album for the rest of our lives.
So we need to talk about the music video for Underbite. How did that idea come to be?
Well, I mean, I guess it plays on the lyrical themes in the song.
They took a little piece of the lyric. It's something about a puppet sock show, which is obviously backward and hilarious. But, Luke came up with the idea. He said, what about doing it all sock puppets playing the music? And then the director that we work with, who goes by the name of Mark Ricciardelli, very wonderful and creative man, sort of took that idea and ran with it. And he found this fellow in Toronto that creates finger puppets, and he made all the finger puppets of us, and they really, I think, it was funny because we did all the puppetry. It was like we didn't have the money to hire that big of a crew, so it was like the guy who made the puppets, his friend, the director, and us, just fingering these puppets. That sounds weird, but but yeah, it was the hardest that I've ever worked on a music video, and. But I'm very proud of it at the end of the day. I haven't really even seen it. I've seen the final product once, but I haven't really had the opportunity to view it. And I think it came out as more than a music video, It almost came out as a silly little short.
Earlier we talked about this idea that we're sort of received a little bit differently than other bands, and that's a really flattering thing, and it's an amazing thing. And I think that the video does well to highlight two of those characteristics. One of them, and this plays into the lyrical themes of the song, is that we try not to go onto the stage and give a performance that's too generic. We don't try and go on there. Rody specifically doesn't try and go on there and act like a big tough metal singer or something like that. We're about having a good time on the stage, and we're about creating hopefully a good atmosphere and a good energy. And part of that is also being sort of lighthearted. So I think what the Underbite video does well is it talks about and it sort of exposes a very real problem that exists within, I think, metal music and hardcore music, where people are phoning it in. They're giving shitty performances because they think that that's how they're expected to do it. But then it's also done with sock puppets, so it's done with puppets, so it's hilarious and it's in its own way. So I think striking that balance between something that's lighthearted but meaningful is, I think, something that we have strived toward achieving in the band on stage and off stage.
Yeah. One thing I noticed was the band shirt costing $75.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that people sometimes when kids come to shows, they're berated by the band, and the bands put on shows that demean the audience, and I couldn't think of a worse candidate to demean than the people who are there to support you. Those are the people that ultimately give the band a life, and I think to go and to belittle them on stage the way some bands do is shameful, and I hope that we never step in that direction ever.
So, do you have the whole year planned out now? It's just going to tour for the rest of the year?
I guess the rest of our lives or something, or the rest of our short and miserable lives.
What kind of plans do you have for this year? I mean, it just started, so.
Well, there's an American tour coming up in a little while. And
Yeah, in April, I think. And the plans are to just tour ourselves blue in the face. Specifically, we're going to do the United States, and then we're going to probably, we're going to attempt to go over to Japan again if they'll have us. 'Cause I don't know that they like us that much anymore.
Really?
a friend of mine once said that plans are like having a deadline to make an excuse. And he was talking about social engagements, like don't ask me to meet you at the bar on Friday night because I'll find a way to get out of it. And I think that, we sort of fly by the seat of our pants, and you never know what sort of opportunities are lurking in the shadows or just around the corner. So, we've got our fingers crossed that there'll be something good down the line. But for now, it's just stay true, stay to the course, and hopefully the future has something exciting for us.
Okay. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you for having us.
Hey fellas, if you like what you see, subscribe over here. Hey, if you like what you've seen here today, subscribe to the channel.
Also, check out Behind the Ink.